Good evening. I'd like to call the March 4th School Committee to order. John?
Here.
Sean?
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Carla?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Chuck is here. Welcome everybody. Tonight, with public comment, we'll be using the chat function, and as always, if it's something that's not on the agenda, we'll address it at the end of the meeting. And if it's something that's relevant to a topic that we're discussing, we'll try to answer them at that point in time. Our first order of business is the consent agenda. Then we'll have reports, and we'll have a citizen proposal for a bench to be located on RMHS grounds. And we're very honored and lucky to have one of the presenters, Diane Del Pazzo, here tonight with us for that presentation. We'll then discuss the high school principal search, the appointment of Dr. Jennifer Stiles to a new title. We'll discuss the evaluation process, which we'll start, go over tonight. And we'll then have the winter update, and I'm going to delay the policy discussion on IMB until March 18th meeting, and that's because Dr. Doherty's gotten some additional feedback that just came in within the last 24 hours, and he just needs time to kind of look at it and also regroup with Carla and Sean to discuss that. So I just want to make sure that all of that material is accounted for and reviewed and discussed with them before we then take it up. We're not just pushing it off. I want to do it the right way, and I think it's best to do it at the next meeting. We'll get an update on kindergarten enrollment as well, and then we'll enter into executive session to discuss the superintendent-elect's contract, to return to open session to vote on that. So having said that, is there a motion for the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Tom?
Yeah, I have a few things. I emailed them in to Samantha a little bit earlier, but for the rest of the committee, so you know what the amendments I'm requesting are. First, in the meeting for the January 21st, on page 2, there's currently a paragraph that starts with Director Mr. Chris Nelson provided an update about the extended day budget. As you read through that, in terms of what the number of registrations he provided, that's not accurate to what he actually provided, and the order of it looks a little odd. So I sent a suggestion such that it be Director Nelson discussed positive progress with the program since his hire. Unfortunately, COVID-19 introduced challenges. Initial projects projections seem good. However, cohort and phase starts as a response to COVID-19 impacted the revenues. Dr. Doherty, Assistant Superintendent Kelly, CFO Dowd, and Director Nelson had to make tough decisions. They decided to eliminate 3 staff, reducing the central office staffing from 4 to 1. They also decided they had to shut down the before school program and the rise of the high school after school program due to low enrollment. They are also examining the after school programs to right size the staff to student ratio with safety in mind. They're optimistic about a return to a full program, both before and after school programs for FY22. As of now, they have about 230 families already registered for next year. which is more or less a transcript of what he said with a few minor adjustments. The other adjustment in that meeting was also on page 3. There's currently a paragraph that simply says Mr. John Parks and doesn't say what Mr. John Parks said or did or anything else. So I'm suggesting that we amend it to say Mr. John Parks asked questions about school rentals with respect to town camps this coming summer. Ms. Dowd mentioned that it was still on pause. Ms. Dowd mentioned there's ongoing dialogue with the town manager on fees received from recreation for use of school facilities. Mr. Parks asked to be kept in the loop as we hear more information. And then also on that page, there's currently a strikeout of the word and so I'm asking that that word actually be removed from the final version. And that's the amendment for that meeting minutes. I have one more for the 25th as well, but I'll pause there in case anybody has any adjustments to those or has any concerns with those.
Oh, seeing none.
So, Chuck, sorry, just one thing. I'm fine with the amendment as is. I'll just make an observation that our meeting minutes lately, I think, are summaries of the discussion, right? Summaries of the major topics versus, long descriptions of the conversation. So,
Yep.
For this time, I have no issue with it. But I think maybe going forward, if we want to sort of amend these, we should probably try and emulate that if we think that what's in here misrepresents the discussion. That's fair.
I agree.
Fair feedback. The other, so that's the 21st. Then I also had feedback on the 25th. On page 3, it says Mr. Tom Wise replied stating he supports the decisions that are currently being made and believes all decisions have been made in order to ensure safety for all students and staff. This was in regard to the public comment about following up with meetings and stuff like that. And what I actually stated was I didn't think it was the right thing at that point in time. And I mentioned that Dr. Doherty, Ms. Boynton, the rest of the department heads have demonstrated they're working on it. And, I mentioned that the ongoing survey was going to be a key input to that process. So just restating what I actually said, because what it says I said, I didn't actually say in that portion of the meeting at all.
Okay. Any objections? Any other comments on the consent agenda?
I have one logistical question, just a flow of information question, which I think Ms. Dowd may be best to answer. The donations we're getting from the football organization, just the flow of that money comes in, it goes into the revolving account, and then the revolving account is what pays the assistant coaches?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing, no other comments. I would like to vote on the consent agenda as amended. John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Great, thank you. Now we'll have reports. I thought I saw Bridget on here. There she is. Hey, Bridget.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Okay. Our March Community Challenge is steps, so any form of steps will count, such as like hiking or walking or running. Our winter sports season has come to a close, and Fall 2 is beginning practices right now. And games are scheduled for a little bit later this March, so hopefully I'll have updates when those happen. And those are cheer, football, winter track, volleyball, and girls swim. Course selection is beginning for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors for next year. We have restarted the High Five program for seniors, which is when we highlight 2 seniors a week to tell them that they've done a really great job at their time at the high school and we love what they're doing, and to give them a high five, which in this case, a virtual high five. SATs were held yesterday, and we have a virtual assembly on March 9th. No Place for Hate tour that students can sign up for. And We the Youth is holding a mask drive for Rosie's Place, where they're accepting mask filters, reusable masks, disposable masks, and hand sanitizer. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Bridget. I don't believe there's any staff reports tonight.
That is correct.
So we'll go right to committee reports. John?
So nothing on rec right now. That meeting is next week. We do have some upcoming events with the Portrait of the Graduate, which has been ongoing. That is hitting the community forums now. I think the school council is going to hear it. I think PTO had it the other night. It's down to pretty much a final meeting coming up towards the end of this month before it's presented to school committee with a very large panel who's put a lot of hours into it. And that's it.
Thank you, John. John Doherty, I just have a question. So we should talk about doing that on maybe Zoom so that those people can attend and participate. Sean?
No report tonight. Thank you.
Aaron?
I'll just throw out that the CPAC is having their next business meeting on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. The following Tuesday, the 16th, the reading subcommittee of the CPAC is meeting, and the following Tuesday, March 23rd, is going to be the first reading presentation on the 5 components of reading. All of those are public, and there will be Zoom links for anyone interested in attending.
Thank you. Carla?
Thanks, Chuck. We had a meeting of the RCTV board. We were talking about fall 2 sports and live streaming, and any parents, volunteers who are interested in running the equipment for that live streaming option should reach out to Angela at rctv.org if they're interested in that. The stadium or Turf 1 is already all set with to go live because of the equipment that was put in for Friends and Family Day from a few years ago. And then in terms of what RCTV is offering for school committee members or potential school committee members who are running for the 2 spots on school committee and also for the select board, they're trying to decide what they're actually going to offer candidates. They're working on it. They may not be having the debate style forum that they typically have, but they will be giving candidates opportunities to present their views and their platforms and things like that. So good luck to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Tom?
I don't have a report today, Chuck.
Okay, and I'll just mention that we are now on the calendar for contract collective bargaining negotiations, and that will start on the 10th at Wednesday, a week from yesterday at night. So. Okay, so now, Diane, I really thank you for indulging us here, and welcome Diane Del Pazzo, and just really a nice thing that your daughter Melissa brought forward to us about putting the bench for your late husband. So I didn't know whether John did Joe or Gail wanna, or you wanna make any comments about it, or?
Just briefly, in your packet is a beautifully written proposal by Diane's daughter Melissa in memory of her father who passed away in December, and it's a proposal for a bench which would be located when you enter the Turf 1 entrance of the high school, in the near the sign where there's a shaded grassy area and there's some paths there. The family is going to raise the funds and work with our facilities department to have the bench installed. And I would recommend that the committee approve this request.
Thank you. Diane, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I think my daughter said it
Absolutely.
very eloquently about our relationships with the schools over the years and our proximity to the schools, which makes it a nice location for us and for all of our friends in the neighborhood. So just hope that you guys will consider that.
Yeah, we're very happy to consider it, so thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else from the committee have any questions or comments?
Do we need a motion?
Motion, yes.
Motion to approve the proposal for a park bench on the grounds of RMHS in memory of Michael Del Pozo.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
I'd just
John?
like to say,
Oh, go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you very much for proposing this, and what a great idea it is.
Yeah, it was actually my son's idea. Having spent so much time down the fields, they would see some of the other benches along the softball area, and we jumped on it. I thought it was a wonderful memory for Michael and something that a lot of people could appreciate and share in. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can have the vote. Oh, Carla.
Sorry, I just wanted to say we're sorry for your loss. We wish that we could have met you in a nicer, different time, and that what a wonderful way to celebrate him too. That's a great location. When Dr. Doherty just explained it, that's a great location. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your condolences and for agreeing that this is a good idea. My kids will be so pleased.
Right. Okay, we're ready for the vote. John,
Aye.
Sean,
Easiest eye all year.
Aaron,
I was going to say enthusiastic, yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Chuck, aye. Okay, Diane, well, thank you very much and God bless you, and hopefully that will get out there soon as the ground thaws a little bit. So.
Great. So
Thanks.
I'm sorry if I could just ask, would the next steps be Melissa or Matt getting back in touch with the director of facilities?
Yes.
Because we need stuff like, pricing and, costs associated with the bench and the plaque and the cement landing. So we could deal directly with him from this point
Yes.
on, you think?
Yes.
Huggins will be more than happy to help.
Okay, awesome. Thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thanks, Anne.
Bye.
Okay, Dr. Doherty, did you want to go over the high school principal search?
Yes, Kerry Meisinger and I will be
Oh, I'm sorry, and Carrie.
tag
yeah.
teaming on this one. As you know, Mrs. Boynton is going to be leaving the school district at the end of the year. She is going to become the principal at Neshoba Regional High School in Bolton, Massachusetts. I just want to say up front that I've enjoyed working with Mrs. Boynton, and she's done an outstanding job, and I wish her the best of luck in her future role at Neshoba Regional. We have been putting together the search process, which is in your packet. The screening committee met for the first time today, and we went over the process with them. And in your packet is the timeline for the search. I'm going to let Kerry talk a little bit about all of the different recruitment efforts that we have put in place. So I'll let Carrie speak first on that.
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
Carrie.
Sure. So, we've utilized some of our traditional methods for advertising the position. We've posted the position on the district's website. We've also utilized our school spring job board through Talent Ed. We've also placed a posting on Indeed. We've also placed a posting on the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents website. They have a job board as well. And, in an effort to try to attract candidates of diverse backgrounds, we placed a posting on the National Minority Update website. And we've been working over the last week to finalize a partnership or membership with the Massachusetts Partnership for Diversity in Education. So we expect to be finalizing our membership very shortly. And that will allow us to list our district and links to our postings and all of the contact information to the HR office on their website. And they've also been gracious enough to provide us with access to a job board from one of their partnerships, and that's the Teacher Job Board. And so we were able to post the principal position there as well.
So what we have been doing behind the scenes, consistent with the timeline, is Kerry sent out the links to the survey on what qualities staff and families would like to see in the next high school principal. We had 2 focus group sessions. One was with staff on Wednesday, and then one with the community on Tuesday evening. Both had about 30 to 40 people that came and participated in the discussion. It was a very good discussion in both sessions, and gave us some additional data that as we were going through the process. So moving forward, the timeline consists of the applications closing on March 15th. So far, we have received 19. Between Indeed and Talent Ed, we've received 19 applications. So that's actually a very good number with 11 days still to go in the process. We met today, as I said. Next week, we're going to meet and design the questions for the interviews. There will be a full day of interviews on March 23rd. If we need an additional day, we will add it. We've historically done a full day of interviews this way rather than break it up over several days. It's easier on the screening committee's schedules for the most part for them. And then after that, the screening committee will hand over some pre-finalists, which we will then do an additional set of interviews of questions that the screening committee had based on the first round of interviews. And then based on those sets of interviews, we will move forward some finalists, which will become public. And then we will go through the regular process that we've done with other administrative searches of interviews with different groups in the schools, as well as an open microphone night for staff, open microphone night for the community. If applicable, site visits to the district of the candidates or the candidates coming here, and then a final set of interviews. Tom Milichowski will be a key part of the process. I met with him today, and we've had a couple of conversations now about this. He will be joining at the first stage of it, which is the interview process with the screening committee, and then he will attend all of the other sessions moving forward from that point. And he and I will work together on making the final decision of the appointee. So, which we hope will happen around April 5th. So I don't know if there were any
Thank you,
additional
John.
questions.
Does the committee have any questions? None? Okay.
There were some. We're just trying to get her typing in, I think.
Uh,
Aaron, I saw your hand first, but I typed faster, so you go first if you don't mind.
I was like, wait. I just wanted to clarify, John, when you said the screening committee will move forward the pre-finalists, and you use the expression, then we will do additional interviews. Who is the we in that scenario in addition to you? Is it Carrie,
Tom.
Tom, or it's just you and Tom?
No, myself and Tom, some staff, whether it be administrators and maybe some other staff in the at the high school.
Okay. And then all of that will tunnel who the finalists become.
Correct.
Okay. My other question, I know the screening committee already met once. It felt a little light on high school teachers to me. Was there any consideration about maybe adding another teacher or?
The teachers are going to be part of that next phase that I just mentioned.
Okay, so they'll have the chance
Yes.
at the pre-finalist phase.
I probably should have said this at the beginning. We had a lot of interest both from parents and staff to be on the screening committee.
Oh, great.
And so I've already had a discussion with the high school staff that the ones that did show interest from that didn't make the screening committee would be part of that next piece.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that very much.
Tom?
My question was going to be on a similar vein, but before I jump into that, Carrie, first, thanks for the details of all the places it's posting and the partnerships that are already being built in that space. That's great to understand and move a lot of those things forward. You can't hire diverse candidates if you can't reach diverse candidates. So that's great to see. John, my question is somewhat aligned to Aaron's, but maybe a different slant. I look at the screening committee and I see an underrepresentation of parents versus the rest of the screening committee. And so I'm wondering if you could talk us through a little bit about how you came up with the numbers and the right group of people. You know, obviously there's expertise in that group, and there's also a lot of invested parents, but like you said, there were a lot of parents and teachers who volunteered to be part of it. So, and we know the game of, not the game, but we know the challenge of finding the right balance, right? Of how many people to attend. So you just talk through the theory of finding the number that you came to and the balance of parents, staff, administrators to be on that
Sure.
committee.
First of all, this is the most I've ever had on a screening committee. I know that the superintendent search had a couple
We had
more.
17, yeah.
Yeah, but this is the most I've ever had. I felt it was important to make the group a little bit larger based on the importance of the position in the community. But it also, to make a committee too big, it really restricts the voice of the individual members on the screening committee. So there has to be that balance. I felt it was important to have 2 students instead of 1. In the past, we've had 1 student. I feel sometimes that doesn't make any sense because that 1 student probably feels isolated as part of the process. So we did add a 2nd student. We did actually add an additional parent from the original group that we were going to put together because we wanted to make sure that we had representation from NetGo, special education, and parents that may or may not have students in the high school yet, but are about to have students in the high school. So we wanted to make sure that we had that mix as well. In terms of the teachers, again, we wanted to make sure Jess Bailey is actually the building rep for the RTA, so we felt it was important to have that representation. Anne Marie Corey actually serves 2 roles, both special education, and she's a member of the RMH Teachers Against Racism. We wanted to make sure that we had the high school principal secretary, which is always a key role in these search processes, and representation of administrators. And I felt it was important to have the central office administrators involved, where I am not going to continue on next year, that their voice was also included in this process.
So clearly a lot of thought, and thank you. Adding one additional parent adds a little bit of more balance to it, so I appreciate that. And in the follow-up in terms of the public meet and greet portion of the process, that's just going to be the finalists, not the pre-finalists, right?
That is correct, yes. The pre-finalists are not public, the finalists will be.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, John. Is there a motion, Tom?
There is. Move to approve the RMHS principal search process as outlined in the superintendent's memo dated March 4th, 2021.
Second?
Second. John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Thank you, John. Thank you, Carrie.
Chuck, we have a
Yeah.
quick question on this topic before we move on that just came in. Actually, it's missing an address, but we know the person. How do you want to handle that? Can't do it because it doesn't comply with policy. I'll ask her for her address and then hopefully she can respond and then we can include it later.
Okay. John, did you want to go on to the next agenda item?
Sure. The appointment?
Yes.
Okay. So under Massachusetts general law, the school committee approves the recommendation of the superintendent for the positions of assistant superintendent and director of special education. So this evening, I'm asking the committee to approve two recommendations. I'll have Dr. Stice talk about the second one, but I do want to recommend to appoint Dr. Jennifer Stice as the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services and change her title from Director of Student Services. My rationale on this, and I think her record has spoken for herself in the work that she has done since she's come into the district in building relationships with parents, particularly the special education parents. The CPAC has been, in my opinion, revigorated under Dr. Stice, and the work that the CPAC board has done. She's made a lot of strides in strengthening our in-district programs. And in addition to that, Dr. Stice has worked hard in developing the district improvement plan goal of special education literacy. So I would like the committee to appoint Dr. Stice as the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. This is a change in title. The organizational structure will stay the same. There is no other additional changes at this time with the position.
Okay. Thank you, John. I'd like to say, a real heartfelt congratulations and well-deserved. And, Dr. Stice just continues to, raise the bar in terms of how to do things the right way. And we're really, really lucky to have her here. So thank you for this recommendation, John. Anyone else? Tom?
Sorry, I keep bouncing back and forth between the Q&A and the chat.
Me too.
So first of all, I'm on the same page of that, and we'll have the motion coming shortly. But John, I would just like to understand from you what you see in other districts. That's one question I've been asked by the public, and you and I have talked about it a little bit, but I want to make sure we bring that forward, that are other districts looking at this role now as an assistant superintendent type role? And does it include, any other benefits, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it?
So the the person would have to be appropriately licensed, which Dr. Stice is. But this position does exist in other school districts in comparable sizes to Reading. So it does exist. Yes.
Thank you.
I was curious about the same question, and I took a sample of like a dozen or so of our peer towns, and it was probably 50-50, right? And I think one thing that I think is really appealing about this to me is that elevating the leader of student services to this level says that we really value special education, that we're really committed to it, and we're focused on it as a district. I know we don't have a motion yet. We're having a lot of deliberation here, but I had the same question.
Aaron?
Am I supposed to wait till we have a motion now?
No, that's all right.
Sean, you threw me off. I just want to say I wholeheartedly support this decision, and as someone who's been the liaison to CPAC, you know, Jen, I'm just so grateful for the work you do and how you have navigated things with Allison this past year, which has been beyond challenging, I know, but you guys have been amazing, and I'm just so grateful for your collaborative nature and how approachable you've made yourself, and I really think you've made a dramatic impact on our special education services, and I'd be proud to support this.
Okay, now we can have a motion. Thank you, Aaron.
The motion is move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Dr. Jennifer Stice as the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services.
Second.
Before we vote, there is one question in the chat related to this topic. And that question in the chat is from Cheryl Lestrade of 28 Lindsay Street in Boston. Does this new position require increase in pay?
There will not be an increase in pay other than the normal cost of living adjustment that would happen annually.
Okay. Any other committee comments or questions? Okay, we're ready for the vote. Sean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Tom?
Resounding, warm, heartfelt aye.
And Chuck, aye. Congratulations, Jen. And now I think Dr. Stice is going to report out on the next aspect of this topic.
Yes, thank you all so much. I really appreciate your confidence and the support that you've given to me and to all of the staff. Reading is an amazing place. There are so many amazing teachers and related service providers, and the parents and students are absolutely amazing, and thank you all so much. Along with this, I would like to propose that Allison Wright, who is now our Assistant Special Education Administrator for Student Support, be elevated to the position of Director of Special Education. Allison has worked in Reading for 6 years, 3 as a team chair, and then the last 3 as an assistant. She has a tremendous knowledge of the systems, the schools, and the students that I don't think we would find anywhere else. Her background and knowledge of the district has been absolutely invaluable. As part of her position, she does run our summer school program, which is absolutely amazing, and we have had a lot of positive feedback about this. It is an absolute pleasure to work with Allison, and I would like to see her receive that bump in title as well.
I was on mute. Sorry. Thank you, Jen. Tom?
You see me itching for a question. So Jen, I support this because I support you and your understanding. And I've seen Allison in action as well in the committees lately, and I appreciate that engagement and that involvement. So I'm looking forward to this. I would like to talk a little bit about this at a later point in time and understand a few things from concerns I've heard from others, but I am going to support this tonight because I support your support of her. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else? Okay,
So there's a motion here too, Chuck.
the motion.
Move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Allison Wright as the Director of Special Education.
Is there a second?
Second.
John?
Was that John or Sean?
No, I was taking the vote, unless there's more conversation. Oh, sorry, Carla?
Sorry, may I ask a quick question? Are we voting on this because it's a change in title?
Yes,
We're voting on it because we're changing the structure, so to speak.
you're changing
Right.
the title, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're ready for the vote. Sean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Thank you. Congratulations to everybody.
Chuck, before we move on to the next section, that comment from before, it now has an address on it and might be a good time to go back to it. So this is with regards to the principal search. Cheryl Lestrade of 28 Lindsay Street in Boston. Do we have any METCO students on the hiring committee representation, and have we reached out to METCO to advertise for the position?
Do we the first part of the question was, do we have any METCO students on the hiring committee?
Correct. On the selection committee, yes.
No, we do not.
And the second part of the question is, have we reached out to METCO as a greater organization to advertise the position as well?
Cheryl actually asked us this question today during the screening committee meeting, and Kerry, you want to answer it?
Sure. So at this time, I had not reached out to METCO, but I thought that Cheryl's idea was a great idea, and I committed that I would do that, in short order. So.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, Dr. Doherty, we're ready for the evaluation process.
Okay, so in your packet is two documents that, actually more than two documents that are related to this. One is a memo that explains the process. All of you now have gone through this process at least once, so you have last year's experience to build upon. What I wanted to do just briefly is to walk you through some of the sections so that you're aware of it. I'm going to attempt to pull these up on the screen. So this is the Dropbox link that you may or may not have accessed yet. And you can see that it has several different folders separated by planning, by goal. So we have the redesigning school goal, the coherent instructional system goal, the supportive and safe learning environment goal. All of the forms that you're going to need to complete the evaluation is located in the folder called Evaluation Memos and Forms. I've also have folders on the 4 standards of the superintendent's evaluation process. Standard 1 is instructional leadership. Standard 2, management and operations. Standard 3, family and community engagement. Standard 4, professional culture. Then there are superintendent goals as part of the district improvement plan. So the first goal, which is talent diversification and leadership development strategy. The second goal, which I referred to earlier, the special education literacy goal. The third, district vision of the graduate. The fourth is school physical and psychological safety. And goal 5 is the transition plan. So evidence for each of these areas are located in the folders. This year, there is not as much data per se as in previous years, just because we have not had any state assessments associated over the last year plus. So you will not see any of that data. What you will see a lot of is how the pandemic, the evidence of all of the things that we've done during the pandemic in relation to a lot of these goals, since we have been essentially in this pandemic now for almost 1 year. 1 year in 1 week. So that's all of the different pieces of the evidence. So I'll stop there and answer any questions that you may have. Okay, I guess, want me to continue, Chuck?
Sorry, I was on mute again. Yes, please.
Okay. So now I'm going to just pull up the packet. So this is the memo I was referring to. What I've included in the packet also is the self-assessment. So annually, as part of the 5-step process, the superintendent does a self-assessment. This also gives you the rubric for all of the different areas. So what is in the red, I guess it's red, light red, is where I've assessed myself in the different areas. So you can look at that at your leisure. I was going to then move on. This is the summative form that you will be using. Same exact form as last year, except that I have put in all of the goals right here. Remember that some of these goals are 3-year goals, and this is the first year. So as you're doing the categories, you want to take that into consideration. But all of the goals are listed here for from the district improvement plan. And then here are the different categories. So this is standard 1, which is broken down into the 6 indicators that you see there, and there are 4 areas that you can score in. And then standard 2 and 3. And then here is the district improvement plan, mid-year update. And what I have done in red is to explain where we are in the process of all of these goals. So some are complete, some are in process, and some are planned for either later this year or in future years. And I did something similar with the goals where it says status. Again, you're going to see completed, in process, or planned. And each goal is different depending on the length of the goal, the length of time for the goal, or where it lies in the process. So the last piece I just want to share with you, and this is in the memo, is the timeline. So I did send all this information to you the week of February 22nd to give you some advance time to start reviewing it. because I do know that it does take a while to complete the evaluation form. This evening I did present it. You'll be working on this and submitting it to myself and the chair by March 11th. The week of March 11th, I will have individual meetings with each of you to go over the draft evaluation. If you are going to make any changes after the conversation, you would get those final evaluations to the chair by March 22nd. The chair will then have approximately a week or a little over a week to complete the final summative, which would then be in the packet along with the school committee individual evaluations. And the April 1st meeting would be the evaluation meeting.
Thank you, John. Tom?
John, thank you for pulling this all together. It seems weird to be doing this already again, but it is what we agreed to, so here we are, right? On the timeline in particular, I have a couple questions on some of the other evidence and what we may not gather in time, but what's going to be gathered for the rest of the year, I suppose. But on the timeline in particular, March 11th is 1 week from today. And so when it says like week of March 11th, I'm wondering if we can agree to say that should be due by March 14th, which gives a full weekend to do it if anybody wants to do it over the weekend. And then the week of March 14th/15th is the week in which you meet with us. And then it's due that following Monday to Chuck as the final version. So just trying to align times to weekends essentially as part of that request.
That's fine.
Okay.
So we would start scheduling meetings March 14th.
15th is the Monday. 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th.
Okay.
As a time for that kind of stuff. And then the question I was going to ask about some of the data side of it, Dr. Doherty, would be more along the lines of, I know Vocal comes with MCAS, so we're not going to have that until MCAS is done. YRBS is listed in there as well. I think this is supposed to be a YRBS year. Are we planning and scheduling for that to happen, or is COVID going to be impacting that again and we're not going to get that data? Do you have any update on where we stand on some of the other data gathering that goes to the greater goal sets?
So the YRBS is going to be administered in, I believe, April.
April? Okay.
Yeah, April and May, depending on the level. I think middle schools are in April and high school is in May.
Okay.
You set, Tom?
Yeah, I'm set.
Sean?
I just wanted to suggest that maybe we think about a future agenda item post April 1st, where we sort of debrief on this timeline. I don't want to boomerang back and forth every year, but now that we'll have been through it, sort of, this accelerated timeline, it probably makes sense for us to make sure we give ourselves an opportunity to discuss whether it worked well and we want to continue doing it.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay, John, now it's the kindergarten or the enrollment update.
Yes, I just need to find it in the packet. So in your packet is the most recent update to the enrollment. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find it.
It's page 128, John. Oh, you're looking at a physical copy.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. So as you can see by the chart that's in the packet, our numbers for kindergarten for next year are bouncing back up to the 2019-20 school year. We're currently at 291. My guess is we'll add between now and September another 20 to 30 students. Traditionally, that's what happens. It'll be a combination of half-day and full-day students. What we have done right now, which has been consistent for the last couple of years, or last, I think, 3 years. We will have 2 satellite half-day classes. One will be at Joshua Eaton, which will have both the Eaton half-day students and the Barrows half-day students. Currently, we're looking at 17 half-day students at Eaton. And the other class will be at Killam, which will consist of the Killam half-day, the Birch Meadow half-day, and the Wood End half-day, which right now is 15 half-day students. We will be having 3 full days scheduled for Barrows, 3 full days scheduled for Birch Meadow, 3 full days scheduled for Eaton, 3 full days scheduled for Killam, and 2 for Wood End. The other numbers are projections based on the current enrollment for the other grades and what we know right now of students that are returning. We have not obviously received all that information yet from parents that may be returning their children from private school or homeschool, but you could see that the class sizes are pretty comparable, pretty balanced across the district and within the guidelines. So I don't know if anyone had any questions regarding that.
Tom?
Take myself off mute. Thank you again for this. A couple of observations here, especially if we see a growth of 20 to 30 like you're suggesting. Killam would be bursting at the seams with 3 classes. Obviously, that if we were having to go to 4 classes, John, to stay at the minimum, or the maximum, I guess, stay below the 22. Do we have the space already at Killam, and would we have the staff to support that if we needed to?
We do have a classroom available at Killam. They've gone as high as 20.6 classes or 21 classes. I believe last year they were at 21. So we can do it, and yes, we did account for that teacher if we need it.
Okay.
In the budget.
Okay, great. And looking through this as well, there's just some minor editing before we finalize this version. We have some misaligned numbers with regards to where the heads come from, the kids come from. We have 2 in Wood End in the Killam number, but Wood End itself doesn't show 2 as an example. And it shows 8 at Birch Meadow when it should be showing 6 at Birch Meadow. So just some minor things there. But my question here as well in regards to kindergarten is, are we seeing an age diversification or stratification that's different? Are we seeing some, older six-year-olds or something coming into kindergarten because their parents held them back for a year or anything else like that? Have we done any looks at that?
I have not delved in that deep yet, but I certainly can look into that.
Okay. And like you already said, we don't know how many kids might be coming back from private kindergarten for first grade, so we can't project the 255 number up necessarily, but we seem to have enough space in most of those cases to handle 4, 5, or 6 kids injection per school as necessary.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So now we'll do the winter hybrid update.
Okay. I know this is the part that everyone looks forward to.
Maybe while John pulls that together, Chuck, we do have one public comment. Do you want to take that now, or do you want to take it later in the meeting?
Sure, we can take it now.
Yeah, I just didn't want the person having to wait forever necessarily. So it's Cheryl Lestrade, 28 Lindsay Street. I would really like to know how it is possible that we cannot support getting an assistant for our Medco director, but every other department has assistants.
Right. Thank you. Okay, John.
Okay. So there are several sections, several things I'd like to discuss tonight. A lot has been happening as you are aware, in the Commonwealth in regards to getting students back fully in person. So I am going to spend some time talking about that. I do want to update the committee on pooled testing and how things are going there. I want to talk a little bit about the fall 2 season, which I know Bridget touched upon earlier, and also to go over the health and safety numbers, and a good thing that we can now sing indoors. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So in terms of the health and safety piece, and I want to thank Mary Juliana and her staff for the amazing work that they continue to do. This is a graph showing the number of positive student cases by day in February. You can see that we've had a high of 5 at the beginning of the month, and the end of the month we were at 0. In March we have had a few additional cases, but we've been consistently been at the lower end, which this trend started in January and is continuing on into February. So obviously that's a positive thing that's happening in our schools. This week for positive cases, we had 2 students that were remote that tested positive at the high school, no in-school close contacts. We had a student remote at Parker, no in-school close contacts. 2 Parker students were in person. It did result in 25 students being quarantined. No staff were quarantined. 1 Birch Meadow student tested positive, was remote. And then 1 Killam student was in person. It resulted in 22 students and 6 staff quarantine. The total cases in September, you can see it broken down by level and by staff, and the number of quarantine cases as well. We have seen, and I don't want to jinx us, but our athletic quarantines have been reduced significantly towards the end of winter and the beginning of fall too. So I just wanted to bring that up, and that was early on, that was a big source of quarantine, but now that has subsided. So I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about pool testing. And so last week, we're doing a slow rollout of the pool testing so that we could understand how the process worked. There's a lot of logistics involved with the test. If all we had to do is the actual test, it would be easy. But there's a lot of work behind the scenes with both the recording and the technology piece behind it, the scenes. Obviously, then the contact tracing if you have a positive case, and also the pools themselves, contacting those for the follow-up reflex testing. So last week we pool tested athletes, extracurricular activities, and staff who gave consent. This week we have increased that to preschool, kindergarten, high needs, all students who gave consent or families that gave consent, athletes, extracurricular, and staff. The week of March 8th is when we will do a full implementation of all students and staff who have consented to testing. We are getting support from the state. They are providing a team of clinicians primarily on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from a company called MedX. It is a registered nurse, a licensed LPN nurse, 2 medical assistants who will be working with us to provide testing. They came in this week to go through the different schools, to also get familiar with our preschool, kindergarten, high needs kids, and so they have a pretty good idea now of how it's going to work. DESE did announce that they are going to fund the pool testing until April 18th. So far, we've done 148 pools in our pool testing program. We've had 3 positive pools, all athletics, and 1 inconclusive pool, which was a staff pool at one of our schools. And individual PCR tests and Binax tests have been done as follow-ups. We do have still some tests pending from yesterday, but we have been getting a good turnaround time from the lab of approximately 24 hours. And any of the reflex testing that is going to need to be done for the pools will be done by our school nurses. They've all been trained in the process. So I just want to briefly remind community and families and in the committee of all the mitigation strategies that we are doing for in-person learning. And we have now added pool testing as part of that. This is going to be important later on when we talk about bringing students back in person full-time, that with the exception of the physical distancing, most of these will continue to stay in place. That we're not going to compromise on our mitigation strategies as we bring in more and more students in. I do want to talk a little bit about vaccines. Governor made an announcement yesterday that all school staff will now be, beginning on March 11th, will now be added to the groups that can get vaccinated. Actually, CVS Pharmacy, which is part of the federal program, is already taking appointments for school-based staff. And if you go to their website, you can see if there are appointments available. Like everything else with the vaccination right now, there are not a large abundance of doses. In fact, my understanding is next week's are already been accounted for because today, by mid-morning, all of the appointments were taken up. So even though the educators and school-based staff are now going to have access, the amount of doses that are still available has not changed. There has not been an increase. So it is still going to be a slower process to get everyone vaccinated. But I did want to show that in this chart now, we are at the phase where you see the 2 arrows. Individuals with 2 comorbidities and or age 75 plus, early education, K-12 workers, and adults 65 plus. So that's the phase that we're at right now. So now talking about the full in-person learning, which was announced last week by the Commissioner Riley and Governor Baker. So this is what we know at this point. The Board of Elementary and Secondary Education are going to meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. to discuss this agenda item. And what Commissioner Riley is going to be asking the board is to grant him the authority to determine when hybrid and remote models no longer count for learning hours. So there was an amendment due to the pandemic that was approved by the board earlier in the year that changed what counted as learning hours. Synchronous, asynchronous, and in-person learning was all counted. Then recently there was a change to that synchronous and in-person learning were counted the same, whereas asynchronous was not. Now that's going to be changing again if the board approves it, that it will just be in person, except for families who have decided to have the option of going full remote. Those families' hours will count identical to in-person hours. If approved, the current timeline is that the elementary will return full in person on April 5th. There has not been any indication from the commissioner that there will be a phase-in for elementary, that it will be all in person beginning April 5th. Middle school and high school dates will be determined, but that will also be a phase-in approach. I don't even want to predict, but it may be something right after April vacation. Could be middle school and or high school. And as I mentioned, parents will still have the option for the remainder of this school year to choose full remote for their children. So I do want to discuss a little bit about the challenges that we are going to need to address going to full in person. Obviously, we've been, well, it looks like Carla has a question.
John, did you want to take Carla's question?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I can take Carla's question.
Okay, thank you, John. Will the phase-in from middle school and high school, is that going to be, are they going to leave that up to on the local level, or are they going to make that at the state level?
I believe it's going to be state level as well.
So if they say we're back in because we don't have the learning hours, because of the learning hour shift, then we could all potentially be back in at all levels at some point.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
So just to clarify that a little bit further, I understand the only date that the state is talking about is elementary. Are administrators talking about potential dates for middle school and high school in Reading, or are we going to completely rely on the state saying when this needs to happen?
I think we're taking our guidance from the state right now. I mean, we are planning behind the scenes on how we're going to implement it. So we definitely have already been moving forward in that direction.
Okay.
But
you're preparing for it under the assumption that it will happen, but
yes,
not setting our own date yet.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
So I want to discuss some of the challenges that we're going to need to address going to full in person. And in the fall, we did create 3 plans as required by the state, a full remote plan, which we only had to use for 1 week in theory, right after the Christmas break. The hybrid model, which we've been primarily in all year, and now the in-person model. There are significant challenges that we are going to need to address to go full in person, and we are fully prepared to address those challenges. One which I've already mentioned is the vaccine availability for staff. It is not a prerequisite from a health standard that the vaccine has to be, that every staff member has to be vaccinated, but it is an additional mitigation strategy. We are going to need to change our classroom seating distance from 6 feet to as low as 3 feet. We have already been working with GNAP as to what that means for the capacity of each classroom. Once we know how many students would be coming back full in person, and the elementary survey was out this week and it's actually closing tomorrow. Once we have that information, then we can actually work backwards to see how many desks and chairs we need in each of the classrooms in each elementary school. And then those will need to be put back into those classrooms. Right now, those are being used in a variety of places. Lunch is one of them. So now we're going to have to take the furniture that's in the lunchroom and move it into the classrooms and reconfigure what lunch is going to look like, which I'll get into in a second. The quarantining procedures are going to need to be a challenge with the new distance. So even though we're going to be 3 feet, the current guidelines from DPH are that you still quarantine if you are in close contact 6 feet or less for 15 minutes or more over a 24-hour period. So we will most likely see more quarantining if we have positive cases of students, because there'll be more students in every classroom. Maintaining the lunch distancing. So the 3 feet does not apply to lunch because students will have their masks off. So one of the things we are looking at is going to 4 lunches each day. We're working very closely with Danielle Collins on what that could look like. It will mean that lunches will most likely go from around the 10 o'clock time frame to a 1:30 time frame. We're also looking at how much time we need for cleaning and disinfecting in between lunches. We've received some additional guidance on that recently, so we're looking to see if we can reduce that amount of time between lunches. It's right now 20 minutes in between lunches. We're looking to see if we can reduce that so that our lunch span is a little bit shorter. The biggest issue is going to be scheduling, because essentially now you are rebuilding an entire new schedule for in-person, which means that at the elementary level, we have to redesign what the specialist schedules are going to look like. It's going to also impact elementary planning time. So it is possible that the elementary shorter day, which traditionally was on Wednesdays, is now going to be on Fridays, maybe at 11:30 instead of 12:45 to accommodate for the additional hour of contractual planning time that we're going to have to account for, because the scheduling is going to need to change. Another challenge is going to be how to address the needs of fully remote students. At the elementary level, the way we've been doing it is that those students just stay with the remote teacher for that week. Now, if everyone is back in person, those students will have to be live streamed in, similar to what we've done at middle and high school. It's a little bit more difficult to do at the elementary level than it is at the other 2 levels. So that is something we are looking at, because we are going to have to address the needs of those fully remote students who are going to stay in that model until the end of the year. Special education services are going to have to all be rescheduled to the full in-person model. Right now, not every special education student is in both weeks, so we've been able to address their needs on their IEPs differently. Now that everyone is back in, we're going to have to redesign all of the schedules to make sure that we follow the IEPs. One question we don't know yet is staffing, and this is a couple of categories. One is we do have some staff in mostly food service that have been furloughed. Some of those staff are not going to be able to come back to a full-time model, so we are going to have to take a look at how are we going to staff things like lunch. So Danielle Collins is working on that. We also do not know if additional staff will opt out and go on unpaid leave if we go fully in person both weeks. When we did this at the high school a couple of weeks ago, we did have a few staff that were not able to come in person full time and had to provide some accommodations for them. Because we lose the Friday, we will have to change our cleaning and disinfecting schedule, so we are working very closely with Joe Huggins on that. Arrival and dismissal times are going to look different, and entrances to the building will look different because we are now basically doubling the amount of students, so we still need to keep the 6-foot distancing outside of the classroom for everything that we're doing. So all of that will change. And something extremely important, which we have been working behind the scenes on, is the social emotional transition for students. I had a conversation in a meeting today with Lynna Williams about this at the high school. I know that Jen Stice and the crisis team have been working on this district-wide. So this is something that we are planning and preparing for, because there are students right now that are very comfortable being remote because of the less interaction that they have to have with peers that may have in the past picked on them, or that they, were bullied or something like that. So now that now is reintroduced back into the full in-person model, and how we can provide those supports for those students is going to be absolutely critical. So I'll stop
Yes.
at this point and take questions.
Committee questions? Okay, I don't see any, John.
There
Okay.
are two Q&As. Oh, there's one
Aaron?
just raised.
Not a question. I just want to acknowledge that this seems like a massive logistical challenge on top of all the many challenges you've already dealt with this year. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I appreciate all the work that is happening behind the scenes. I can understand if there's probably a very high level of stress and anxiety around how to make this happen. And yet, the state is taking it out of our control. So just an acknowledgement and appreciation for what's happening around this.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, Erin, especially to our building principals. Essentially have had to redo their schedules. This will be the third time this year. So, one thing I do want to add, because I'm sure someone is going to ask the question, is what happens if we don't do this? What would happen is we receive our Chapter 70 funding based on a 180-day schedule. If the commissioner decides to start phasing us back in April 5th, and we do not comply with this regulation change, then we would start losing a 1/180th of our Chapter 70 funding for every day that isn't in person. So I think that's an important point that was brought up the other day with us at a superintendent's meeting that we had with the commissioner. So this is a regulation change, so this is something that we have to do. It's not an optional thing. Parents do still have the option of going fully remote if they feel that they just don't feel safe enough to send their child to an in-person. But I will assure people that we are doing all of the mitigation pieces, with the exception of the physical distancing in the classroom only. All the other pieces are going to remain in place.
Thank you, John. Sean?
John, I just want to say that point about the Chapter 70 funding is a really important one, and to put a fine point on it, I think that works out to about $60,000 a day.
Okay.
So it starts to hurt. It starts to hurt quickly. So that this isn't. We don't have a lot of choices here.
Right. Any other?
Tom?
Oh, Tom had some questions, right?
Well, there's one public question which you've already answered, John. So I published it because the person acknowledged you already answered it. Sean beat me to the punch with the calculation. I was right about that number too. And yes, that's almost a person a day in some cases, depending upon what staff level we're hiring. So that does hurt pretty quickly. The public comment comes from Kathy Bean, 138 Bancroft Avenue in Reading. In September, what plan was sent to DSE for full in-person learning? Could we see a copy of that? How can the community help to move the middle and high school students into the classroom at the same time as the elementary students?
We're taking our guidance from the state on that.
The plan, to answer the question on that side,
The
was
plan
published
has
in the
been-
deck back
The
in
plan's been
September, right?
posted on the website since September.
Yep.
Aaron?
So one thing I didn't think I heard you mention was regarding lunch. I know that with kids spread out 6 feet, we're already using gymnasiums in addition to cafeterias. I'm assuming by doubling the students, they're not going to fit in the cafeterias and gymnasiums. So has there been talk about what lunch might look like in terms of where students are eating?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing is we're looking at a 4 lunch schedule instead of a 3 lunch schedule.
Right. So,
The other thing that we're looking at is perhaps, because now we're going to have to move all of the desks and chairs that have been 6 feet apart out of the gym and cafeteria and put them back in the classroom, so which means we have to bring the cafeteria tables back into the cafeteria. We're looking at, through our facilities department, making Lexan shields that will allow 4 students to sit at a table. So there'll be shields. Yeah, I don't have a diagram of it, but there'll be shields set up so that students will be partitioned to be able to eat lunch. It won't be 6 feet, but they'll be partitioned with the Lexan.
thanks, John.
Which is also a logistical challenge.
Right, I can only imagine. Those don't come out of thin air.
Thank you, Aaron. So, John, I just wanted to, with the public comment, I think you said that plan is posted on the district website, correct?
Yeah, the fall reopening plan is posted on the hybrid.
I thought you said it. I just it came through garb here a little. Sean?
John, to that point, though, I mean, I think it's fair to assume probably that the plan we put together in August, early September, can't be implemented, exactly as it was planned in August and early September, given that we know more today. We have different conditions in terms of teachers on leaves and students that are remote and all those sorts of things, that some of these logistics that we're solving for, probably are subject to a different set of constraints than we had back in the summer. Yes, that's correct, Sean. It's not the plan itself. It's going to be implementing the plan and all of the logistical challenges, which I showed here on this slide, that we're going to have to address to get this to work. Yeah,
I think you're both trying to assume the context of the question. We don't know why they asked that question, so I don't think we need to talk about whether it's useful or not now. They didn't ask that question. Tom?
Yeah, so one of the things, we received an email earlier today that I thought was interesting. I hadn't considered it, so I just wanted to raise it here for consideration. In particular, parent has a child who's fully remote who may want to start to phase them back in from a social, emotional, and other perspective into a hybrid model. But they won't be able to in this new world, right? They'll have to go directly to go past go, don't stop at jail, go all the way around, and all of a sudden you're fully in person now in this new model. Is that correct? There's no transitional time for students who'd want to transition from remote to in person?
No, the elementary principals are going to need as much time as possible to get ready for April 5th, and to make a change on March 15th, then make another change on April 5th. They just can't do it.
So just to dive into that a little bit, I want to understand and make sure I'm on the same page. I'm not doubting that they can't do it. I guess I'm more pulling at the strand of the social emotional side and making sure that the transition for the child, going from being home all the time to going full in, is a pretty drastic change, depending on your age and level and things along those lines. So I guess what I'm asking there is, the state, come April 5th, we won't have a choice theoretically if the board passes things on Friday, right? So you'll have to be in or you'll have to be remote. There will be those two options and that's it. But we have some control of maybe trying to help one student work their way back in, or maybe we don't want to open the floodgates. Is that the concern? To make sure that the social emotional health of them is also handled as part of this transition?
So I think, Tom, my best advice to the person that sent the email is for them to talk to their building principal.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think I raised it because I hadn't thought of it before, but I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few different people in different kind of situations. There's some people who don't want to go back at all that are happy with the hybrid. There are other people that want to go back as fast as possible. This is one of those situations, as the whole year has been, where we can't please all the people all the time. Want to echo to a degree Aaron's point about all the work that people are doing, and thanks for trying to do that. Right, it's impossible to please all the people all the time, but the effort they're putting in to try to set the right circumstances to try to accommodate is and should be appreciated.
Thank you, Carla.
Great. Thanks, Chuck. So this is truly a monumental task, presumably with people who are already very fatigued and now having to make another change. For me, this is a hopeful change, and this is an exciting change because it's giving people the opportunity to take one more step closer to normal. I hear the sentiment of the students who may be at home full remote, and the social emotional impact of if they come back to school full time. Those parents and those students still have that option to stay full remote if that may be too much for some students, because we've heard of students who being full remote is worked out really well for them. But we also hear the other side of it where those students aren't, some students just aren't doing as well socially, emotionally by being at home full time. So for me, this whole process is exciting, right? If I may make a recommendation to get some working groups to make this happen. We don't have a lot of time to put this pressure solely or fully again on the principals, on the staff, at all levels. Can we get some working groups together, get some parents in there, get these small compact working groups at each different level to make things happen. I hear the lunch piece of it is a huge piece of it. Right, my mind is already spinning. Oh, we could get some tents, we could do this, we could do that. We could get people to come in and help out. So we could utilize this other space at the high school. So I know my head is already spinning. So my suggestion would be to recommend some type of working groups to really say, this is our issue, how are we going to solve it? Because there isn't a lot of time to make these changes, especially if we get this information potentially if we get this information tomorrow, right? For it to happen, or the meeting is tomorrow.
Right, we're going under I'll be honest with you, Carla, we've been going under the assumption this is going to happen. So since we were surprised by this announcement last Tuesday, we've had several discussions, and honestly, during February vacation, I was already working on this because I anticipated, and some of you have heard me say this months ago, I was hopeful that we could be back after April vacation.
Right.
Because I saw the trajectory of where the vaccine was going, and so in my head, I was not surprised about the announcement. I was surprised at the timing of the announcement, but not about the announcement. So we've been working on it. This is more, and I appreciate the working group piece, but a lot of this is not things that a working group is going to solve. It's managing all the moving pieces. A working group isn't going to be able to do that. A lot of this has to fall on the shoulders of the building principal to be able to set up the way they want it done. We are working with each of the building principals. We've already had several meetings, food service, facilities, technology. We've already been moving forward and working on this. So we know it's going to happen. I mean, I would be shocked if they don't vote to do this. Given that the cases are going down, the vaccine is going to become more available. So the building principals are the ones that know their buildings the best, and they're all working on the plans they need to work on. I know that they met the other day and developed the schedule, what the specialists are going to look like. They're already moving forward with this.
And that, may I, Chuck, just do a continuation? So that's great, right? If we have a head start on it, so to speak, and potentially we have a head start on the elementary piece of it. If we have that much of a head start, can we I propose we as a district take that piece and push all of our students back, right? Because we all know that it gets more difficult in terms of schedule and moving towards the high school, right? It seems like it's an easier fix in some respects at an elementary school level. So in that respect, if there needs to be a working group to get those high school kids back in, or those middle school kids back in, or just to help out with if there are extra needs that the district just can't manage, right? We know that how involved the parents are and how willing the parents are to step up to help out. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, John.
Okay. So I want to talk some other updates. Fall 2 sports has started, and it's going very well. You may have noticed that we have a green turf field under the snow, which is now being used by our indoor track team outdoors and our football team. So I want to thank everyone who made that happen. This Saturday is our first round of games / meets. Football is the only exception. Their first game is going to be, I believe, Friday night, March 19th. I think it's an away game. I believe the first game's an away game. I think, I'm not sure. I shouldn't say that. They are underway, and things are going very well. They are all participating in the pool testing, and our other extracurricular activities are starting up as well, and they are also participating in the pool testing. I believe tryouts for the spring show happened this week, so that's ramping up as well. And then we already talked about the elementary third marking period is going to begin March 15th, but the switch to the in-person model is going to be April 5th, rather than have two switches. And that was sent out to parents this week. I want to talk a little bit about singing. So now we can finally sing indoors. It's taken a long time for this guidance to come out. I know that our music teachers are thrilled, particularly at the middle and high school level. You can imagine, though, there's going to be a lot of restrictions. So students must be 10 feet apart. They must be wearing masks, which need to be tight and well-fitting. They can only really sing for 30 minutes at a time. They need to sing in well-ventilated spaces, such as an auditorium, a gymnasium, or a cafeteria. They should be singing with their indoor voice at low volumes, with less projection. When they're outdoors, they should be monitoring that volume. They should all be facing in one direction when they're singing. They should avoid sharing materials, and if for some reason they're not able to do singing instruction, they should look at other alternative options like virtual, which I know our teachers have done a great job with this year. So this is now going to be starting to happen this week, if not it already has not already happened. So I don't know if anyone had any questions on singing.
Hey, Annie.
Just a thank you to Desi for that extremely detailed guidance.
My thank yous this week go to the first year teachers in our district. being a teacher during this year is difficult enough, but being a first-year teacher in this situation, I can only imagine what those first-year teachers are going through. So I want to give a huge thank you to all of our first-year teachers in the district for the amazing work that they are doing this year, remote, in-person, hybrid, and eventually fully in-person this year. So a heartfelt thank you to that group this week. I want to, as I've been closing, show some student pictures. Students at the high school in our Crossroads program did a fundraiser for the Reading Food Pantry of dental accessories. So they collected 100 toothbrushes, 53 tubes of toothpaste, and 73 containers of dental floss. So I want to thank the students and Brittany Francis, I believe, is the teacher of that program, for making that happen. The Reading Food Pantry appreciates that. At Barrows, our music classes are being held in the cafeteria, and here is Elena Rauchi teaching music to the students. This is no singing yet. This was pre-DESE guidelines. Recently, our future freshman night was held. One night was for Coolidge, one night was for Parker. And you could see it was virtual. And so here is one of these high school ambassadors at the future freshman night. When we had a lot of snow, our physical education classes did snowshoeing as part of their classes, and you could see that the students are having a great time. And it was perfect weather when we had that snowstorm to do snowshoeing. Joshua Eaton students, I believe this is grade 1, doing writing. So this is peer editing of their writing samples. Other Joshua Eaton students doing a little engineering with Legos. Here we have a couple of students doing that. This is another Barrows music class. One of the advantages of setting up the cafeteria this year with desks and chairs is it allowed our art and music classes to happen in a large space so that we didn't need a satellite classroom for those classes. And I believe this is a Barrows science teacher teaching a 4th grade science lesson. And here is a Birch Meadow student who is happy to be at school. So the next thing I want to do, and I'm going to get out of this presentation. And I want to show a video that was on the news recently of a student, Barrows student, Darian Morissette. And hopefully I can pull up this video. I hope I can. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, now let's hope.
The pandemic has been a struggle for many kids, but a 9-year-old in Reading, Massachusetts has found a way to thrive. He is teaching his own Black History Month lessons on Zoom every night during February. Catherine Underwood introduces us to the boy who wants to change the world.
I appreciate you guys taking your time to be with me once again today.
We've all heard the old adage, never too old to learn, never too young to teach.
Any questions for me?
And Darian Morissette is living proof.
So I was just wondering,
if you knew that you loved teaching people before you started this.
You know, I really didn't. I didn't know I could do all of this.
Throughout the month of February, the 9-year-old hosted a live Zoom lesson every night, spotlighting a prominent figure in Black history.
Black history is not just Black history, it's American history. Serena is a strong, fearless, beautiful, everything you could think of woman.
From famous athletes to legendary singers.
He was born 6 weeks early with an eye disorder.
There were powerful poetic performances.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise.
And even some live entertainment. The idea came from his godmother, Tiffany Brathwaite.
There's something about learning from a child that just makes your heart just explode.
She mentioned it to Darian, and he stepped up in a way she and his parents never expected.
Just seeing how interested he is and the motivation he has.
It's been a lot of work, but fun work. There's a difference.
As the month went on, more and more students joined his class.
Grant, we've been talking about you.
We're back again. What's going on, guys?
He even got a special visit from a couple Celtics players, including Grant Williams.
Well, he was definitely starstruck. He loves the Celtics, and he just didn't even know what to say.
So as Black History Month comes to a close, we celebrate this young man with big plans.
Thinking about being a dancer, pianist, scientist.
Teaching his class even more than lessons in Black history.
And see you tomorrow.
But lessons in life.
It's made a huge impact on me.
So, my understanding is that Darian has now moved on to Women's History Month, and he is preparing lessons for Women's History Month, and I believe, according to Beth Levitt, the Barrows principal, he's going to actually teach one at a staff meeting later this month. So it's amazing to see that type of talent in our elementary schools. So
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's all I got.
Thank you, John. Good job.
Chuck, we have one public comment before we move on to the next section. I think you're freezing up, so I'll take the liberty with that. And I always mispronounce this name, so hopefully I get it right. Aaron Squealia of 30 Meadowbrook Lane. This is not a question, more of a comment. There are a lot of energetic, creative thinking parents. The more the merrier when problem solving. And I'm sure you would be able to get many, many parents to support those building principals with their challenges and logistics and help them.
Thank you. I still freezing up.
You're not frozen, just a little cutty-outy. You like that, huh, Aaron?
It's definitely not a word.
You just made up a word.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you to everybody. Is there a motion?
Chuck, can I think you have to vote on postponing the second reading of IMB.
We do. I'll make that motion, and then we'll move to the other motion. But before we do, I want to understand how long we think it's going to take so I can put the right time on the other motion as well. So I move to postpone the second reading of policy IMB until March 18th, 2021 school committee meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Sean?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Okay, thank you. For the other thing, I guess, maybe 30 minutes.
Okay. So we'll say 9:20 then. All right. Move to enter into executive session to conduct negotiations for the contract of Superintendent of Schools Tom Milashevsky and to return to open session at approximately 9:20 p.m.
Second.
Sean?
Aye.
Sharon,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Carla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Chuck, aye. Okay. See you over there. Sean,
Here?
John,
Here.
Carla,
Here.
Aaron,
Here.
Tom,
Here.
Chuck, here. Okay, so in executive session, the committee discussed the contract with Superintendent-elect Tom Milichewski. And if Tom Wise, would you like to make a motion?
I move to approve the contract of Tom Milichewski as Superintendent of Schools beginning July 1st, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So the contract will become a public document, and the compensation is $190,000. Anything else? John?
Yeah, I think we do need to look moving forward at a policy in regards to executive session and setting up salaries for non-represented people. Set some type of policy up so there isn't confusion as there was this time.
Okay. Are we ready for the vote? Sean?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
And Chuck, aye. Okay, thank you. And thank you to Samantha, Gail, and Carrie for their participation in executive session. So there's no other, unless there's any other business tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second?
Sean?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Everyone.